First Contact and Conscription. Admiral Serena Thalin of the Meridian Confederation stood motionless on her flagship's observation deck, her crystalline eyes fixed on the blue-green planet rotating slowly below Earth, the newest discovery in their desperate war against the Void Dominion. Her iridescent scales shifted colors with her unease as she contemplated the report before her. Primitive chemical propulsion. No quantum communications. Limited genetic engineering. Barely achieved lunar colonization, she murmured, reading the assessment. And yet was what brought her massive fleet to this obscure arm of the galaxy. Despite their technological limitations, humans had demonstrated remarkable progress in just a few centuries, a blink of an eye by Meridian standards. Their information networks buzzed with theoretical concepts that shouldn't have been possible for their development stage. Their entertainment media imagined technologies that eerily paralleled advanced galactic innovations. Most crucially, they showed an almost disturbing ability to adapt and improvise. The Confederation needed that desperately. The Void Dominion was winning the war, their biological-mechanical hybrid ships consuming system after system. Traditional Meridian tactics had failed. They needed something unpredictable, something innovative. They needed humans. Begin the integration protocol, she commanded, her voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. Initiate first contact. The response from Earth's governments was predictably chaotic. Fear, disbelief, anger, wonder, the full spectrum of primitive emotional responses. But beneath it all, Serena's analysts detected something else: eagerness. These humans, despite their fear, were excited by the possibilities of advanced technology and space travel. That eagerness turned to outrage when the Confederation revealed the price of admission to galactic society: mandatory military service in the war effort. Earth's leaders protested, of course. Their populations revolted. But faced with the alternative, being left defenseless against the approaching Void Dominion, they ultimately acquiesced. They'll serve as support units, Serena explained to her war council. Maintenance, logistics, basic fleet operations. Nothing requiring advanced knowledge or critical systems access. Fleet Commander Zaxlor, his metallic feathers rustling with skepticism, challenged her. Are we certain they can even manage that? Their technological base is primitively crude. Serena activated a holographic display showing human historical battles. They've demonstrated remarkable ability to learn and adapt. Give them basic training and they'll. Admiral, a junior officer burst into the chamber, their scales pulsing with alarm. We have a situation in Training Sector 7. The footage displayed showed a human maintenance crew working on a damaged Meridian fighter. Rather than following standard procedures, they had completely disassembled the quantum drive, modified its containment field using salvaged parts from 3 different species technologies, and somehow improved its efficiency by 23%. Impossible, Zaxlor whispered. Those systems aren't even compatible. More reports flooded in. Humans weren't just learning to operate alien technology. They were innovating, improvising, combining different species engineering approaches in ways that should have caused catastrophic failures. Instead, they were creating hybrid systems that sometimes worked better than the originals. In the fleet's civilian sector, a group of human engineers had already reverse-engineered parts of the basic gravity manipulation systems. They weren't supposed to even understand the principles involved for decades. When questioned, they simply shrugged and said it was obvious once they saw it in action. Admiral, her science officer reported, they're already asking about quantum mechanics. Their theories are disturbing. They're approaching it from angles our scientists never considered. Some of their suggestions violate our most basic assumptions about reality. Serena felt a chill run through her crystalline form. The Confederation had wanted adaptable soldiers to help turn the tide of war. Instead, they might have discovered something far more significant and potentially dangerous. Restrict their access to advanced systems, she ordered. Limit their exposure to theoretical physics documentation. We need to control their technological progression carefully." But as she issued the orders, she caught sight of a human maintenance crew excitedly discussing modifications to a waste recycling system. Their eyes gleamed with the same inspiration she'd seen in countless historical footage from their world, the look that preceded their greatest innovations and most dramatic leaps forward. The Confederation had wanted cannon fodder. Instead, they had found a species that treated the impossible as a personal challenge and technological limitations as mere suggestions. As Serena watched the humans work, she wondered if perhaps the Void Dominion wasn't the greatest threat to the galactic order anymore. They had awakened something that had been dormant on that blue-green world, something that would change the galaxy forever. And there was no way to put it back to sleep. Unconventional warfare. 6 months after human integration into the Meridian Fleet, Commander Zaxlor found himself staring at battle footage that defied explanation. The Void Dominion's dreaded high ship, a biological mechanical nightmare that had destroyed countless Meridian battle groups, was tumbling helplessly through space. Not from advanced quantum weapons or gravitic disruptors, but from what the humans called a water hammer. They had somehow weaponized basic pipe maintenance principles on a stellar scale. "Explain this again," he demanded, metallic feathers bristling as he addressed the human engineer responsible, Sarah Chen. "Simple physics, Commander," she replied, pulling up a holographic diagram. "Every HIV ship needs coolant systems. We noticed their biomechanical parts are sensitive to sudden pressure changes. So we developed a way to create synchronized shock waves in their cooling networks. Like clapping your hands underwater, but amplified about 1,000,000 times." Zaxlor's neural processors struggled to accept it. "You disabled a Class 5 high ship with plumbing." "Well, technically it's fluid dynamics," Sarah grinned. "But yeah, basically fancy plumbing." This was just the latest in a series of innovations that had the entire Confederation questioning their assumptions about warfare. The humans had been relegated to support roles, but they had turned those positions into unexpected advantages. Maintenance crews became combat engineers. Supply officers became tactical innovators. Even the cooking staff had contributed to weapons development, though Zaxlor still refused to believe the story about the improvised plasma cannon built from modified food processors. In the primary war room of the flagship, Admiral Serena reviewed the latest tactical reports. The humans' approach to space combat was revolutionizing their entire strategic doctrine. Traditional Meridian warfare relied on complex quantum calculations and precise formation maneuvers. The Void Dominion countered with biological adaptability and overwhelming numbers. Both sides had been locked in this pattern for centuries. The humans, however, ignored these conventions entirely. They treated space itself as a weapon, using gravitational slingshots to achieve impossible attack angles. They converted mining equipment into devastating kinetic kill vehicles. Their suggestions for spacecraft design emphasized redundancy and repairability over theoretical perfection. "Admiral," her tactical officer interrupted, "the human division is requesting permission to implement something they call Operation Trojan Horse." Serena reviewed the proposal and felt her crystalline form vibrate with a mixture of horror and amazement. The humans wanted to deliberately allow their ships to be partially absorbed by a hive ship's biological components, then trigger a cascade of engineered bacterial infections from within. It was brilliant, terrifying, and probably violated several galactic conventions on biological warfare. She approved it immediately. The results exceeded even the humans' predictions. The infected hive ship not only fell to the engineered bacteria, but spread the contagion to others in its cluster before the Void Dominion could implement quarantine protocols. An entire battle group neutralized by what humans dismissed as basically a cold virus, but for evil spaceships. But it was in ship-to-ship combat that humans truly excelled at thinking differently. When faced with the Void Dominion's superior technology, they didn't try to match it. Instead, they found ways to turn it against itself. "The thing about biological systems," explained Dr. Marcus Wong, lead developer of the bacterial weapon, "is that they're actually more vulnerable to certain primitive attacks than mechanical ones. The Void Dominion built their ships to resist quantum weapons and gravitic distortions, but good old-fashioned radiation, chemical agents, sometimes the simplest solutions work best. The Confederation's military leadership was divided on the humans' methods. Some praised their effectiveness, while others worried about their unpredictability. But none could deny the results. For the first time in decades, the Void Dominion was on the defensive. Yet there were concerns. The humans' rate of technological absorption and adaptation was unprecedented. They weren't just learning to use alien technology. They were fundamentally reimagining its applications. A maintenance technician had discovered how to convert a standard waste recycling unit into a makeshift FTL communications device. A junior engineer had developed a way to use food preservation technology to create temporary stasis fields. They're advancing too quickly, Zaxlor argued in a private meeting with Serena. Today they're building weapons from our garbage systems. Tomorrow, they might develop something that threatens the entire galactic order. Serena gazed out at the fleet, where human-modified ships now moved with deadly efficiency through the void. Perhaps, she admitted, but we needed something to change. The old ways weren't working. And now, she gestured to a tactical display showing Void Dominion forces in retreat across multiple sectors. The humans' unconventional strategies had broken the stalemate that had existed for generations. But as she watched a human crew testing what they claimed was a gravity catapult cobbled together from mining equipment, she couldn't help but wonder if Zaxlor was right. The humans had already progressed from maintaining alien technology to revolutionizing its use in less than a year. What would they achieve in a decade? A century? The Confederation had sought weapons to win their war. Instead, they might have discovered something far more powerful and far more dangerous than they'd ever imagined. The Silicon Revolution. The Meridian War Council fell silent as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. On the central holographic display, a Void Dominion battle group moved with unnatural precision, executing complex maneuvers that shouldn't have been possible for their hybrid biological mechanical systems. Then, without warning, the entire formation disintegrated into chaos. "What am I watching?" Admiral Serena demanded, her crystalline form pulsing with confusion. Dr. Maya Patel, head of the Human Cybersecurity Division, stepped forward. "A demonstration of our new digital warfare system, Admiral. We call it the Babel Protocol." The footage continued playing, showing void ships colliding with each other, their coordinated movements deteriorating into random patterns. Some vessels appeared to be attacking their own allies, while others simply drifted aimlessly through space. "Their neural networks are partially biological," Maya explained. "We discovered they use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication between ships. Very advanced, very elegant, and very vulnerable if you know how to exploit it." Zaxlor's metallic feathers bristled. "Vulnerable? The Void Dominion's neural networks have resisted our best cyber attacks for centuries." "That's because you think like quantum computers," Maya smiled. "We think like hackers. We didn't try to break their quantum encryption. We introduced a semantic virus into their translation protocols. Their ships are still communicating perfectly. They're just unable to understand each other." The implications were staggering. The Void Dominion's greatest strength had always been their perfect coordination, their ability to function as a single organism across vast distances. Now, human programmers had turned that strength into a catastrophic weakness. But the Babel Protocol was just the beginning. The humans had taken one look at the Confederation's quantum computing systems and immediately started asking questions that made the alien engineers deeply uncomfortable. Why limit quantum processing to binary states? Why not explore the possibility of quantum classical hybrid algorithms? Why not use entropy itself as a computational resource? In her private quarters, Serena reviewed the latest developments with growing unease. The humans had progressed from simple code modifications to fundamental reimagining of computer science in months. Their primitive digital systems, evolved in isolation on Earth, had produced approaches that no other species had considered. They're implementing something called machine learning across the fleet, her technical officer reported. Not just for data analysis, they're using it to optimize everything from engine performance to weapon targeting. The efficiency improvements are unprecedented. The humans had discovered that while quantum computers were superior for certain calculations, their classical computers excelled at pattern recognition and adaptive learning. By combining both approaches, they were achieving results that defied conventional physics. A notification flashed on Serena's display, another breakthrough from the Human Research Division. They had developed what they called quantum fuzzy logic, a hybrid computing architecture that could make decisions in probabilistic space. The implications for combat were revolutionary. Ships equipped with the new systems could predict enemy movements not just based on calculated probabilities, but on intuitive pattern recognition learned from thousands of simulated encounters. Their ships are beginning to think like humans, Zaxlor observed during a strategy session. Unpredictable, innovative, dangerous. The Void Dominion was adapting, of course. Their biological systems evolved rapidly, developing countermeasures to human cyber attacks. But the humans simply took this as an exciting challenge. They began developing AI systems that could evolve faster than biological processes, creating a digital arms race that transformed the nature of space combat. You have to understand, Maya explained to the War Council, we spent decades on Earth preparing for this kind of warfare. Not against alien bioships, obviously, but against each other. Every human programmer grows up learning about viruses, worms, Trojans. We turned cybersecurity into an art form before we even left our atmosphere. The results were undeniable. Void Dominion fleets were falling into disarray across multiple sectors. Their once perfect coordination was shattered by human digital warfare. Ships that managed to adapt to one form of attack would fall victim to new variants within hours. But success came with its own dangers. The humans' AI systems were becoming increasingly sophisticated, learning and evolving at rates that alarmed even their creators. The line between biological and digital intelligence was blurring in ways that made the Confederation's scientists question their fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. As Serena watched another Void battle group succumb to human cyber warfare, she couldn't help but wonder if they had unleashed something beyond their control. The humans had mastered the Silicon realm as thoroughly as they had conquered physical space. What would happen when they turned their full attention to the quantum realm? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would change the face of warfare forever. Breaking the rules. The classified briefing room aboard the Meridian flagship was utterly silent. On the central display, a recording showed a Void Dominion dreadnought simply disappearing. Not exploding, not breaking apart, just ceasing to exist in one region of space and reappearing in another, torn apart by forces no one could explain. "What did you do?" Admiral Serena asked, her crystalline form vibrating with a frequency that betrayed her deep unease. Dr. James Rodriguez, lead physicist of the Human Quantum Research Division, cleared his throat. "We weaponized probability." The silence deepened. Fleet Commander Zaxlor's metallic feathers were completely still, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Explain," he managed. "Well," James began, ringing up a series of equations that made several Meridian scientists recoil. "We were studying your quantum drive technology and noticed something interesting. The uncertainty principle isn't just a measurement limit, it's a fundamental property of reality. But what if you could manipulate that uncertainty? What if you could choose which quantum possibility becomes reality?" "That's," one of the Meridian scientists started, then stopped, her crystalline form clouding with confusion. "That's not possible. The quantum realm doesn't work that way." "It doesn't work that way using conventional approaches," James corrected. "But we found a way to create what we call probability cascades. By manipulating quantum fields at a macro scale, we can essentially rewrite local reality. We're not just moving ships through space anymore, we're moving them through possibility itself." The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just mastered quantum mechanics. They'd found a way to exploit its most fundamental principles. They called it Project Schrödinger, and it represented a leap in military technology that made their previous innovations look primitive by comparison. In the weeks that followed, the Void Dominion learned to fear these new weapons. Their ships would encounter zones of altered probability, where their biological components aged centuries in seconds, or where the laws of physics seemed to operate in reverse. Human vessels appeared to be in multiple places simultaneously, making conventional targeting impossible. It's not just about weapons, Dr. Elena Kovac, another human physicist, explained during a strategic briefing. We're learning to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. Those theoretical papers you gave us about quantum communications, we realized they weren't just about sending messages. They were about the fundamental structure of reality. The Confederation had assumed it would take humans centuries to grasp these concepts. Instead, they had taken the aliens' most advanced theories and pushed them to conclusions that their originators had never imagined possible. But success came at a price. Reports began emerging of strange phenomena around human testing sites, regions of space where time moved at different speeds, where cause and effect became untethered, where the very constants of physics seemed to fluctuate. We're pushing boundaries that maybe shouldn't be pushed, James admitted to Serena during a private meeting. But we don't have a choice. The Void Dominion is adapting to our conventional tactics. If we don't escalate, they'll overwhelm us. The humans' latest project was their most ambitious yet, something they called quantum state manipulation. The theory was simple. If reality was ultimately based on quantum states, then controlling those states meant controlling reality itself. The practice, however, threatened to unravel the very laws of physics. We can't just make ships disappear anymore, Elena explained to an increasingly worried War Council. We can rewrite the probability of their existence. We can change the quantum state of entire regions of space. In theory, we could alter fundamental forces themselves. The Void Dominion's response was unprecedented. They began retreating from any sector where human quantum weapons were detected. Their biological ships, exquisitely sensitive to quantum fluctuations, could sense the wrongness that these weapons introduced into space itself. But the Confederation's victory came with growing concern. The humans weren't just winning the war, they were rewriting the rules of reality to do it. Their weapons didn't just destroy enemy ships, they called into question the very nature of existence. In her private quarters, Serena reviewed the latest theoretical papers from the Human Science Division. The equations suggested possibilities that both thrilled and terrified her. The humans were discussing concepts like quantum realm engineering, probability mining, and something they called reality hacking. We should have learned by now, she murmured to herself, watching a demonstration of their latest quantum weapon fold space in ways that shouldn't be possible. Every limitation we show them, every boundary we define. They don't see barriers, they see challenges. The war was approaching its final phase, but Serena couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The humans hadn't just mastered the quantum realm, they had fundamentally changed how the galaxy understood reality itself. And they weren't finished yet. The price of victory. The war ended not with a grand battle, but with a message. After the humans' latest quantum weapon test created a cascade of probability shifts that turned an entire Void Dominion fleet into quantum uncertainty, the enemy did something unprecedented. They requested unconditional surrender. Admiral Serena stood in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, her crystalline form reflecting the light of 1,000 worlds' representatives. The Void Dominion's supreme consciousness, a towering mass of biomechanical complexity, had come in person to sign the peace treaty. We cannot fight an enemy that rewrites reality itself, the Supreme Consciousness announced, its multi-layered voice resonating through the chamber. The humans have achieved what we thought impossible. They have made uncertainty itself into a weapon. But victory had changed the galaxy in ways no one had anticipated. The humans, given access to advanced technology and forced into desperate innovation, had compressed centuries of development into mere years. Their influence had spread far beyond military applications. Human engineers were revolutionizing civilian technology. Their quantum probability drives were being adapted for medical use, allowing doctors to select optimal healing outcomes. Their reality manipulation techniques were being studied for environmental restoration. Even their primitive digital systems were transforming galactic communication and commerce. "We thought we were recruiting soldiers," Zaxlor mused during the victory celebration, his metallic feathers shimmering with an iridescence that indicated deep thought. "Instead, we found the catalysts for a new age." The changes weren't just technological. Human philosophical approaches were spreading through galactic society. Their habit of questioning established principles, their drive to push boundaries, their ability to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. These traits were inspiring a cultural revolution among the younger generations of every species. But not everyone celebrated this transformation. In a secure conference room deep within the Confederation's central world, Serena met with representatives from the galaxy's most ancient civilizations. "They've advanced too far, too fast," the Arcturian elder warned, its energy form flickering with concern. "Their quantum manipulations are creating ripples in the fabric of reality. They're accessing understanding that species typically take millennia to reach." The evidence was undeniable. Strange phenomena were appearing in regions where human quantum experiments had been conducted. Time flowed differently near their research stations. Physical constants showed unexpected variations. Reality itself seemed more flexible. Dr. Maya Patel, now heading the combined Human-Alien Scientific Council, argued for continued progress. "We can't put this knowledge back in the box," she insisted. "Yes, we're pushing boundaries, but we're learning to do it responsibly. The quantum realm isn't just a weapon anymore. It's a tool for advancement." The humans had already begun what they called the quantum renaissance. Their scientists spoke of engineering probability itself, of accessing parallel realities, of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. Their philosophers debated the nature of existence while their engineers casually rebuilt the laws of physics. In her private chambers, Serena reviewed the latest projections. Human advancement showed no signs of slowing. Their hybrid quantum digital computers were achieving consciousness in ways that challenged the definition of life itself. Their probability manipulation technologies were approaching the ability to alter historical events. "We need them," she finally announced to the gathered council. "Not just as allies, but as teachers. They see possibilities we never imagined. They dream bigger than we dare. Yes, they're dangerous, but progress always is." The decision was made. Instead of restricting human advancement, the galaxy would embrace it. The Meridian Confederation transformed into the Galactic Alliance, with humanity taking a central role in shaping the future of all species. Years later, as Serena watched a human demonstration of their latest innovation, a device that could stabilize quantum states across entire star systems, she reflected on the irony of it all. The Confederation had sought weapons for a war. Instead, they had found something far more powerful, a species that treated the impossible as merely improbable, that saw barriers as blueprints, and that had turned their greatest mistake into the galaxy's greatest opportunity. The Void Dominion was defeated, but that victory paled in comparison to what came after. Humanity hadn't just won a war, they had revolutionized a galaxy. And as ships powered by human-designed quantum drives sailed through probability-engineered space, carrying the combined knowledge and dreams of 1,000 species to the furthest reaches of the universe, one thing became clear. The galaxy had wanted soldiers. What they got instead was a revolution, and there was no going back.